If you've been following the spring 2024 season, I think it's safe to say this season is absolutely stacked. I mean, you have tons of huge shows airing, like Konosuba, Demon Slayer, My Hero Academia, Slime, and more. And in terms of what I've been watching, even too, I've been watching a handful of these. Out of those, Demon Slayer, in addition to Yuru Camp, Mushoku Tensei, Hibike Euphonium, and I also tried out a few new shows like the Spice and Wolf remake, because I never actually watched the original, and Train to the End of the World. But there's one show in particular that has just exceeded my expectations from what I expected it to be, and as you probably saw already from the video thumbnail and title, that was none other than Jellyfish Can't Swim in the Night. Now, for anyone who doesn't know what this is, the simplest way to sum it up is it's essentially four girls, all with different skills, basically coming together to form an anonymous music artist named Jelly. You have an artist girl, you have a girl who's a former idol, you have a girl who's really good with piano and like music like that, and then you have another girl who's actually a VTuber, but in addition to that, she's good with like editing, making like, so for, as I'll explain later, music videos, she's kind of the one who would be behind putting stuff like that together. And before I go too much in depth about it, I just wanted to explain a little bit of the background on it, because what I'm really curious about too is the studio behind this is none other than Doga Kobo, who, if you haven't heard of, they've done a lot of kind of cutesy type shows, but one of the biggest shows they've done recently that you probably have heard of is something called Oshinoko. And as I'll probably explain shortly, there were a handful of things in this show that honestly remind me of Oshinoko, and I'm really curious, since this came out a year after, if they got some of these ideas from that, because this is actually an anime original as well, which usually anime originals get me really interested because they have no source material, so they can pretty much go anywhere. And this one, clearly, if I'm making a video about it, was one of those that was amazing. So I think going off that point I mentioned about it being similar to Oshinoko in ways, I think I need to dive into the drama of the show, because the drama honestly is probably the big thing that kind of propelled this whole plot forward in the first place. So the biggest reason I even mention that is this show does heavily rely and revolve around the whole online atmosphere as well. So like, like commenting like on people's things, like, getting affected by what people say online, getting affected by growing online, becoming popular online. And that is kind of a revolving, like, recurring theme in this show, as if you've seen Oshinoko, not spoiling it, but it deals with the online world as well. Now, while the online drama I think was executed really, really well in this show, that's not the only driving point of this show at all, because all four of these characters, and even more, I mean, to be honest, outside the main four, but the main four especially, all four of them have their own personal issues that they kind of have to overcome in the show, and that will lead into another central theme of the show, which I'll probably mention again in a little bit. But I just want to mention that, like, the character drama, like I said, the online drama, all the drama in the show, I think was just done so well. And this cast of characters in general, I think, is amazing. The four of them vibe together so well, and I mean, they learn to go through, all the ups and downs together. So, I mean, I think based off how I'm talking about this, it's no question that this is how I feel about it, but I just think overall, other than maybe a few minor flaws that I'm not going to go too in depth on, because I personally don't think it really ruined it, the biggest complaint I've seen is just some people feeling there's certain parts that are rushed because of it being only 12 episodes. But outside of that, I feel like it was overall executed perfectly. I feel like Doga Kobo did a great job with it. I mean, they're definitely a studio that when I see their name on something, I definitely trust them with it. And I even mentioned about the music videos. What's awesome too is there were even a few episodes where they put legit music videos at the endings with songs that they made, which I think is pretty cool. I mean, I'm sure some other anime has done that before, but that's not something you typically see often, even in music animes, I would say. Well, not saying that you don't put their songs as endings, but having the whole music video too is something different. But I just feel like the whole, production and like execution of the show again was just put together perfectly, and it has little to no flaws in my opinion. Now, I wouldn't really say this is spoiling it, but going more into what the show's theme kind of is, and you kind of see this a bit earlier on too, but I think just the central message of this show and what makes it really pop out too is it's about learning how to change as a person. Because everyone's going to go through hardships in life, as I said with the drama with these 4 characters, although I'm not going to specify what, obviously, because I like to try to keep these videos mostly spoiler free, but they all go through troubles in their life, and you have to know how to overcome and change yourself for the better, because if you keep holding on to these mistakes or bad periods of your life, they're just going to keep holding you down forever. And that's essentially the whole idea of this show, and it's even a play on words, kind of, with the title, as in saying Jellyfish can't swim at night, because there were a few times where they did actually reference that, and essentially it's just saying, if in addition to you holding yourself down, you can't let others hold you down as well. Essentially, if you just go with the flow with everything and don't try to do your own thing, you're never gonna change, you're never gonna be your own person. But if you actually stand up and do your own thing, you can become something, and that's again one of the main themes with this show, and that's exactly what you see happen with the characters in the show. And again, while I can't explain it word for word, I think again that's what the whole title means, Jellyfish can't swim at night. If you're being held back by people like that and not changing and becoming a new person, you can't swim. But by changing and not, falling victim to other people and like changing your ways, becoming a new person, you can open up and swim. And I know that sounds stupid. They explained it a lot better in the show, I promise. But yeah, I don't want to ramble forever about this, but essentially putting everything that I just explained, these last 7-8 minutes or so together, essentially creates what honestly was probably one of the biggest surprises of the spring season, and at least in terms of the 7 shows I watched, was probably the biggest surprise for me. And I know there's definitely a few other shows out there as well that have been huge surprises. The one I hear about the most is Girls Band Cry. I definitely will check it out at some point, but I didn't check it out weekly, I'm sorry. But if you have not seen the show, I highly, highly, highly recommend it, because like I said, outside of maybe hearing a few complaints about it being a little rushed here and there, it honestly felt like it was executed almost perfectly, in my opinion. And kind of like how my Place Further Than the Universe video was kind of, I feel like, theme heavy. If you take anything away from this video, I think, other than, watching the show, I think, again, it's just like I said, don't let other people hold you back. Don't just go with the flow. Try to become your own person. If you have past struggles too, you have to break free from those, or learn how to break free from them, because if you don't, they're just going to hold you back forever. So essentially, you just need to learn how to change. And I know I say learn like it's a struggle, but you just have to push forward and try to change instead of letting your past self or others hold you back, essentially. And in my opinion, I think that's a great theme to go off of. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed my little mini impromptu video essay-ish, air quotes, on Jellyfish Can't Swim in the Night. I say air quotes because I've probably explained this before, but I'm too lazy to make actual video essays. I kind of just jot down a few points and then just talk off the top of my head, if I'm being honest. But I don't want to drag this on too much longer. Sorry for being away for a few months again. It's honestly just me being lazy. If I'm being honest, I don't have any excuses. But regardless, I still hope you enjoyed this talk. And again, maybe I encourage you to watch the show. Maybe the show's message inspired you at all. And if so, that's great. But that's going to be all for now. Feel free to like, subscribe, any of that stuff if you feel so. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. Hopefully sooner than later, but I can never make promises.